When Sanford and Son premiered on NBC in 1972, it was more than a new sitcom joining the schedule. It represented a turning point in American television, placing a black father and son at the center of a primetime comedy built on wit, conflict, and genuine emotional connection. Redd Foxx, already a legendary stand-up comedian, brought his sharp timing and streetwise edge to Fred Sanford, while Demon Wilson grounded the show as Lamont, the patient and principled son. Their contrast created instant magic. Fox's bluster collided beautifully with Wilson's restraint, forming a rhythm audiences had never seen before. Millions tuned in weekly, not just for laughs, but for the relationship that felt real beneath the comedy. On screen, they argued, teased, and clashed, yet always circled back to loyalty, making their partnership unforgettable. Early respect and a mentor's influence. In the early seasons, the relationship between Redd Foxx and Demon Wilson extended beyond scripted dialogue. Foxx, despite his tough public persona, recognized Wilson's talent and potential. He reportedly encouraged him, offered advice, and even advocated for his importance on the show during its formative stages. To Wilson, Foxx was more than a co-star. He was an experienced performer whose presence commanded respect. The dynamic resembled a mentorship, echoing their on-screen father and son bond. This early period was marked by mutual admiration and shared pride in what they were creating together. The success of the show felt collective, and both men understood they were breaking ground in an industry that had rarely given black-led sitcoms the space to thrive at that level. For a time, their relationship felt solid, purposeful, and aligned. Success brings pressure behind the scenes. As Sanford and Son soared to the top of the ratings, the pressures of success intensified. With millions watching each week, expectations grew, and so did the scrutiny. Redd Foxx, keenly aware of his value to the network, became increasingly vocal about issues of compensation and respect. He believed his contributions were not being matched by fair treatment, especially when compared to white stars with similar ratings. These concerns went beyond money. They reflected deeper frustrations with how the industry operated. Demon Wilson, meanwhile, found himself caught in the middle. As a younger actor still building his career, he was navigating contracts, public expectations, and professional uncertainty. What audiences saw as seamless comedy was supported by a backstage environment growing more complicated with each passing season. The walkout that changed everything. In 1974, tensions reached a breaking point when Redd Foxx walked off the show during a contract dispute. His departure shocked fans and forced NBC to continue production without its central star. Fred Sanford was written out temporarily, and Demon Wilson suddenly carried much of the narrative weight. Publicly, Wilson handled the situation with professionalism, expressing hope that Foxx would return. Privately, however, the situation was emotionally taxing. He remained committed to his contract and responsibilities, a decision that would later be interpreted in different ways. For Foxx, the moment symbolized a fight for dignity and equity. For Wilson, it was a test of survival in a demanding industry. The walkout marked a turning point, altering the emotional landscape of the show forever. A reunion without resolution. When Redd Foxx returned to Sanford and Son after renegotiating his contract, audiences celebrated, believing harmony had been restored. On screen, the chemistry remained strong, a testament to both men's professionalism and talent. Off-screen, however, the relationship had changed. The trust and warmth of earlier years were replaced by emotional distance. Wilson had carried the show during Foxx's absence, yet disparities in recognition and compensation lingered. Foxx, now wielding greater influence, focused on securing his position and creative control. Neither man fully addressed the unspoken frustrations between them. Instead, they worked side by side with restraint rather than closeness. The laughter continued, but the bond that once fueled it had quietly fractured, leaving unresolved feelings beneath the surface. The quiet end of a working relationship. By the time Sanford and Son ended in 1977, the partnership that once felt familial had become strictly professional. Cast and crew sensed the shift, describing a set defined by formality rather than camaraderie. Foxx and Wilson delivered their performances with precision, yet personal interaction was minimal. What had begun as mentorship evolved into distance, shaped by unmet expectations and differing perspectives. Neither man publicly attacked the other, but neither worked to repair the divide. When the cameras stopped rolling, so did their relationship. There were no reunions, no public reconciliations, and no shared projects. Afterward, the silence that followed was not dramatic, but it was final, marking the end of one of television's most iconic yet complicated creative partnerships. Diverging paths after the spotlight. After the series concluded, Redd Foxx returned to stand-up comedy and continued pursuing television projects, remaining connected to the industry that had defined him. Demon Wilson, however, began a different journey. Disillusioned by Hollywood and emotionally drained by years of pressure, he gradually stepped away from acting. His focus shifted inward, toward faith and personal healing. Wilson embraced Christianity fully, eventually becoming an ordained minister. Where his life had once revolved around scripts and schedules, it now centered on spiritual purpose and service. This divergence was not rooted in anger alone, but in a desire for peace. Wilson did not seek closure through public statements or reunions. Instead, he chose distance, believing that some chapters are meant to end quietly rather than be reopened. The question of the funeral. When Redd Foxx passed away suddenly in 1991, fans naturally wondered whether Demon Wilson would attend the funeral. He did not. Over the years, this absence fueled speculation and misunderstanding. For some, it seemed cold or unforgiving. For Wilson, it was deeply personal. He later acknowledged that they were no longer in contact at the time of Foxx's death, and that his reasons were private. He offered no accusations, no detailed explanations, and no public reconciliation. The choice reflected Wilson's long-standing belief in boundaries and personal conviction. While the public sought symbolic closure, Wilson remained consistent with the path he had chosen years earlier. His silence was not performative. It was a continuation of a life redirected away from the spotlight. A legacy larger than conflict. The story of Redd Foxx and Demon Wilson is often framed as a feud, but that simplification misses the deeper truth. Together, they created something lasting, a show that still resonates decades later. Their personal differences do not erase the cultural impact of Sanford and Son or the joy it continues to bring new generations. Relationships, especially under pressure, can fracture without villains or winners. What remains is the work itself. Foxx and Wilson gave audiences laughter, representation, and authenticity at a time when it mattered deeply. Their legacy is not defined by how they parted, but by what they built together. Sometimes, history's most meaningful partnerships are remembered not for perfect endings, but for the enduring influence they leave behind.